final story takes us back to a time when African Americans owned some of the choicest real estate in the New World.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships.
December 1609. Henry Hudson, a British sea captain in the employ of the Dutch East India Company, is searching for a trading route to the Orient. At the gateway to North America, he stumbles upon a great island in a mighty natural harbor. The settlement of New Amsterdam gives the Dutch a toehold in North America. But much of the colonists' labor came from imported Africans. Those enslaved men and women cleared the land and laid the foundations of the urban community that would one day become New York City. Mark Mitchell, a collector from Fairfax, Virginia, has a 1667 document which he believes tells how some of those slaves fought for their freedom and won land some 200 years before the Civil War.
I remember going to the library when I was only 8 years old and getting hooked on history. When I first saw the land deed, it just sent chills throughout my body. An early American document pertaining to a free person of color in what is now New York City was just extraordinary to me.
I'm Tukufu Zuberi. I'm meeting with Mark Mitchell to learn more about his land deed.
Got it for you right here on the table.
Okay, what is it?
This is a land deed from 1667, signed in New York City, for a black man who owned land in Manhattan.
Now that's impressive.
This might be a truly historic document. How did an African win freedom and land so early in American history?
Where did you get this from?
I bought this from a dealer in New York.
I've seen some of these, but nothing as early as 1667. What can I find out for you?
I'd like to know precisely where this land was located, and I'd like to know what happened to it, and also a bit about the status of the black community in early New Amsterdam and New York.
Is there anything you could tell me that might aid in my investigation?
Well, frankly, I'm just interested in anything you can find out about this.
Okay, all right. Well, good. So I'm gonna go, do what I can do, and get back to you as soon as I can.
All right, thanks so much.
Richard's document was written in 1667 and signed by the British governor of New York. It says that a freed African named Groote Manuel had been given land by the Dutch in 1644, some 23 years earlier. The document transfers the property to Manuel's widow, Christina, and it gives her full legal right to transfer the property to her children forever. The text establishes an African as a landowner in the 17th century. It could be historically priceless, but is it real? I'm headed to Nyack, New York to get the opinion of Wyatt Day, an appraiser who specializes in African American documents.
What I have here is a document that I think could be invaluable historically.
The first thing that catches Wyatt's eye is the brownish-looking writing, which he says has been done in iron gall ink.
Now, what is iron gall ink?
Well, actually, it tends to go into this nice, deep sepia color.
I see.
Wyatt explains that iron gall was the most commonly used ink before the 19th century, so the ink is from the right period.
We're going to look at the paper.
Right.
And that's going to be pretty much the deciding factor here. If you notice, this paper is handmade paper, the 17th century paper, and in here are distinct, what we call chain lines. You see it's from the hand.
It's going down like this.
Exactly. The paper was handmade, and with a roller would actually produce that effect. And also a thing here that's the clincher. And here where my thumb is, do you see that? It's faint, but it's there. That's a watermark. Can you see it?
See
where
it
my thumb
right
is?
there. Yes,
Now,
I do.
That is definitely tells us that this is 17th century paper.
Now, is this an authentic document?
It is the real deal. It's definitely, it's dated 1667. It's 17th century. Everything about it is right. The sealing wax, This seal, which is what a notary would put on today, is the same sort of thing. It's a notarized, it's a seal that lends the authenticity of this as a legal document in the time when it was written. This is a fabulous document.
The document is real. More than 350 some years ago, at the very dawn of European colonization of the Americas, a black man was granted his freedom and land for his family. How was this possible? I'm starting my investigation at the New York Public Library, where they have some of the best reference materials on New York's early colonial history. Unlike the later cotton and tobacco plantations of the South, the Dutch colony of New Amsterdam did not require such large numbers of slaves or extreme manual labor to produce profit.
Dutch slavery was similar to the treatment of indentured servants, and they had rights, but it was still bondage.
I'm getting a sense of what Groote's life might have been like, but I still don't know why he was given land or freedom. Mark wanted to find Groote and Christina's property. It's a long shot, but Stokes' iconography of Manhattan Island traces the physical development of the colony and lists the earliest owners of land in New York.
Groote Manuel, here it is. I found it.
It was once farmland, but some of the street names and numbers remain the same, and I'm able to find the former location of Groote's land. 350 years can bring a lot of change.
The heart of Greenwich Village. It's hard to believe that this was once farmland owned by free Africans. But the question remains, how did Groote Manuel get his freedom, and why was he given this land?
I'm heading to the New York State Library and Archives in Albany, where some of the earliest documents from the colonial period are stored. Charles Gerhing is director of the New Netherland Project. He discovers that the first mention of Groote Manuel in the historic record appears 3 years before he is freed and given land. I'm shocked by what he tells me.
The earliest document that we have is 1641, and it refers to a murder trial. Very interesting stuff, yes.
So our guy was involved in a murder.
That's right. And
now, what's the story?
Well, he and 8 other black slaves are accused of murdering one of their compatriots, a man by the name, or a slave by the name of Jan Primero, in the woods near their house. They will not tell who actually dealt the final blow,
I see.
who killed him. So they are about, rather than hang all of them, they have them draw lots. And luckily, Groote Manuel doesn't draw the short end.
Right, so
The mystery deepens. Groote is a suspect in a murder case, but 3 years later, he wins his freedom and land. Ultimately, no one is executed for the crime. Charles tells me that, ironically, the reason Groote and the others were not hanged for murder is in part the same reason Groote was granted freedom.
Well, I think it's mostly economical. They say the Dutch probably feel that they'll be more useful farming their own land and providing the Dutch with grain and hogs, whatever.
The colony needed labor, and executing able-bodied men made little sense. Similarly, granting slaves land and freedom helped provide food for a fast-expanding population. Charles has located the original document that granted Groote his freedom in 1644. It confirms that the Dutch were thinking of themselves first when they granted Groote freedom. A condition was a heavy annual tax to be paid in crops and livestock.
Okay. And it all supports the operation, the trading operation at the fort. It's very interesting because it's the first example of freeing blacks on Manhattan.